Colonel, what changed in the last 3 years that Iran now decides, oh, yeah, this is on through the people that we hire, those killers?
I think it's self-evident that they're not concerned about a retaliation so far. Look, as I've been saying on your show many times, it is absolutely the number one priority of America to avoid getting sucked into any war in the Middle East. Going to war with Iran would not be in our interest. But that said, I think that it was a huge red flag, which you just raised a second ago, that there have been 165 attacks against our forces in that area since the 17th of October and 15 pinprick one-off strikes. That doesn't deter anyone. It should have been self-evident after the first one. I'm all for not escalating into Iran. And as I also say all the time, we should have gotten those troops out of there because they serve no value to America. They're just a strategic vulnerability that could get us drawn into a war. But if they're there and if someone attacks them, then we need to go in heavy and hard and make a huge price on the people that actually conducted those attacks. That should be non-negotiable.
I remember you said it on this very program. You said that if you don't have a mission plan and an end game for those men and women, especially after October 7th's massacre by the Hamas terrorists on the Israeli civilian population, well, let's take a peek. Do we have it? Let's watch.
I know it's unpopular, but we need to get those troops out of there. They should not be in harm's way to potentially lose their lives. We should have taken them out in 2019, and then this wouldn't be a problem. But now that it is a problem, so we have to deal with it. What we can't do is saying, oh, well, somebody's going to say that, oh, we're leaving and we're being afraid of them. Look, that they're going to say that for sure. But imagine if we don't take them out and now Americans die, then that's going to be, those blood's going to be on the president's hand for not getting them to safety.
And is the president now living with blood on his hands? That was October 30th in which you said, and now we have dead American soldiers.
That's why it is so anguishing to me. I foresaw this at the time, and I was imagining those family members that you're talking about there who are just in anguish now, and they will be for the rest of their lives, and it was avoidable, Harris. We could have avoided that if he had just taken action then to move them. You don't have to abandon the place. You just have to move them out of those vulnerable spots like Tower 22, these little dots in the desert, to move them to more defensible locations where we still have the full access and range of our power. Instead, they did nothing. They didn't move anybody. And even now they're talking about striking Iran, but they're not talking about getting the rest of the troops out of vulnerability.
Well, and this false flag by Representative Jim Himes and maybe others, he's a Democrat from Connecticut, who said during Jackie's report, it's not good to be killing Iranian civilians. Who's talking about killing any civilians at this point? They're hitting our military. You at least want to retaliate in a way where their military feels it, the way that former President Trump did with Soleimani.
Look, the U.S. Constitution and the 1973 War Powers Acts prohibit the president from just taking unilateral military action against Iran, for example, unless they can be shown as directly attacking a military personnel. But it expressly gives him the authority to destroy anybody who attacks our troops. So he does have that authority. So he should utilize that against the people that perpetrated that attack and do it hard.
Right. And I mean, even the administration has said, backed, trained, paid for by Iran. So if you hit those groups hard, Iran gets a message too. We hope, it's so far into this thing, we'll have to see what happens. Secretary of State Antony Blinken with a chilling assessment of the current situation in the Middle East. Colonel, let's watch.
Very important to note that this is an incredibly volatile time in the Middle East. I would argue that we've not seen a situation as dangerous as the one we're facing now across the region since at least 1973, and arguably even before that.
Your reaction to that, Colonel Davis?
Okay, let this make sense to make this make sense somehow. You just accurately said that this is the most volatile situation in the Middle East in a half a century, but we've done nothing. We're not removing our troops. We're not making them more secure. We're not taking any action here at all. We've only taken 1 out of 10 or 12 attacks. We've done nothing on the rest of them. That doesn't belie a government that recognizes the seriousness of the situation and then will take decisive action. That's what I want to see. I want to see our troops protected like the president is supposed to do, and I want to see him keep our country safe and not get us drawn into a war in the meantime. let's see some action to match those words.
Yeah. I mean, this seems like an epic case of miscalculation on the part of this administration and this White House. They have to start to do better than what we did pulling out of Afghanistan immediately.
Agreed.
And thank those patriots. Get their families on the schedule. Make that public now. Colonel Davis, thank you. Glad to have you in focus.
My pleasure. I think that's the least we can do for those family members.
Amen.